Alright, so here's the negative part. Here are the rules. We have rules, alright? So number one, please don't stand up while the boat's in motion because we have a lot of low bridges, even lower than that one, and it's hard to get the blood up them. Number two, keep your hands and arms in at all times. We don't want anyone to get scraped or pinched. Number three, no smoking or vaping on board. Number four, if you have side conversations, that's fine. Just kind of keep it down because people want to hear the tour. They want to hear the history of San Antonio. They don't want to hear your phone call. Number five, no pictures. Number six, yeah, now you're looking at me. Of course there's pictures. Of course you can have pictures. All right, so my name is Chris. I'll be your riverboat captain today for about a 35 to 40 minute trip through beautiful downtown historic San Antonio. I'm actually a retired high school principal here in San Antonio. Did that for 30 years. My school had about 3,500 kids, so I can certainly handle this boat. No issues. I have a paddle right back here, no worries. So here we go. This is River Center Mall. This is the second largest mall in San Antonio. It has about 125 shops, over 1 million square feet of retail space inside this puppy. Now they have an IMAX theater in here, and it's like other theaters, IMAX theaters, the screen is huge. It's got 6 stories tall, 8 stories wide. And in this one, every weekday at 11 o'clock on the hour till 5 o'clock, it shows a movie called The Alamo, The Price of Freedom. And it's a great depiction of that 13-day siege back in 1836 between Santa Anna and our defenders of the Alamo. Actually filmed in Brackettville, which is 130 miles west of San Antonio, on the exact same set, location, and buildings of the 1960 movie The Alamo with John Wayne. So here we go. Get ready. You're going to get a lot of information here, guys. And I will tell you, being a former educator, there will be an exam to get off the boat. I have Scantrons and number 2 pencils up here under the helm. Or for you older folks, I have blue books. You can fill those out. Didn't you hate blue books? Oh my gosh. Every time you liberal arts class, they slap down that blue book, you're just going, oh, please. Because you know they didn't read them. All right, so here we go. Now, as we come out from under this bridge here, I want you to look to your right. You're going to see an 8-foot bronze statue. This was a gift from Portugal in 1968. Now, the statue is St. Anthony de Padua. Now, St. Anthony was born in Lisbon, Portugal. He died in Padua, Italy in 1231. He is the patron saint of lost items, and he is San Antonio's namesake. So there he is right there. So how does an Italian saint get to be San Antonio's namesake? Well, it goes back to 1691, and in 1691, a Catholic priest named Father Damien Massenet came to this area of Texas. Okay, you got to wave. Everyone's got to wave. There you go. That's part of being on the boat in San Antonio. You got to wave at everything. Now, he comes down to this area, and he performs the very first Catholic Mass here, back in 1691. At that point in time, he dedicates that to St. Anthony. Now, this river, the Indians called it Yanaguana, which means peaceful waters. And he also dedicated the river and the Indian settlement here to St. Anthony as well. So if you get home and you can't find your car keys or your wallet or your cell phone, just remember your trip to San Antonio and say these words. Tony, Tony, come around. Something's lost and must be found. There you go. Goes to work. Now up to the right, we have a beautiful church steeple. This is St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Now, St. Joseph's was built by German immigrants way back in 1868. And the purpose of the build was simply because they wanted to have a church that would give Mass in their own home language of German. Now, you're going to find out through the tour that we have a lot of German culture here in Central Texas. A lot of little towns and settlements that are German, such as New Braunfels, north of town, Bernie, Luckenbach, Fredericksburg. These are all German settlements around here. So 1691, we get dedicated to St. Anthony. By 1718, we are then established as San Antonio, which means that this year, San Antonio is 300 years old. Got to give San Antonio some credit. Come on. There you go. Now, our sister city that we share that with is New Orleans, another fun town, right? It also turned 300 years old. So I started thinking about that, and I thought, 300 is pretty old. It's not European old, but it's, it's fairly old for America. So then I started thinking, so what's the oldest city in America? Who could that be? So I had to look it up. Some of you may know it. Anyone know? It's actually St. Augustine, Florida. Now, St. Augustine, 1565, Ponce de Leon, the Fountain of Youth, all that good stuff. And so I had to know who was number 2. And actually, number 2, there's a tie. 1607, you have Jamestown, Virginia, which makes perfect sense. And then you have Santa Fe, New Mexico, which I thought was kind of weird. But yeah, Santa Fe, second oldest city in America. So coming up straight ahead, if you look on your left there, you see a beautiful hotel. That is the Hilton Palacio del Rio. Now the Hilton was built in 1968. We needed more hotel space. And so it actually made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. They built this entire facility, 21 stories, 500 rooms, 202 days. And here's how they did it. They built the first 4 floors right here on the riverbank, and then they built a platform on top. And then 8 miles south of town, they built 500 lightweight concrete cubicle little rooms. And in order to save time, they built them fully furnished. Beds, sheets, pillows, pillowcases, comforter, nightstand, lampshade, light bulbs, shampoos, conditioners, soaps, flowers, chocolates on the bed. Heck, there was even a Bible in the drawer. And in 46 days, they brought them all on flatbed trucks, and they stacked them like Lego blocks. Boom, 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 right up on top of each other, 202 days. Now, everyone thought H.B. Zachary was a nut because he signs this contract, and in the contract, if he didn't get it open for the World's Fair, he would have to, in 1968, forfeit a $38 million hotel to the city of San Antonio. So that was quite the incentive to get it done. Now, here on my left, you see this little brown sign that says La Villita. That actually translates into Little Village. And this is the beginning of the oldest established community in San Antonio, La Villita. Now, it stretches from here all the way down to the Tower Life building and about 4 blocks back that way. This is La Villita. Today, it's a collection of little houses, shops, stores, restaurants. There's actually a church up there. But it was originally a Native American settlement back in 1650. Payaya Indians were right here. When Spain was here, we built Mission San Antonio de Valero, so Spanish soldiers settled in this area. And then when Mexico was here, this was actually Santa Anna's cannon line on our left. So he fired his cannons during the battle to my right, about 800 meters to the Alamo. Now this is Arneson River Theater. This was part of the La Villita. This was built in 1941. It was a WPA project under FDR. You have this beautiful stage on our right. You have these 5 bronze bells on the back of this stage. And I'll show you a better shot if you didn't get a shot of those bells. Now those 5 bronze bells actually represent the 5 Spanish missions built here in San Antonio way back in the early 1700s. So here's your first quiz, class. Are you ready? So I'm sure you studied up on San Antonio because everyone always studies up on the town they're going to go visit. So here's your first quiz. We're going to name those 5 Spanish missions. Ready? Go. Okay, no one will think you're a nerd for knowing them. All right, you have San Juan, San Juan, San Jose, Concepcion, Espada, and one that everyone always forgets, the Alamo. So those are our 5 Spanish missions. Now I did lie a little bit because those 5 bronze bells back there actually represent 5 NBA World Championships. Go Spurs, go. All right, to my right, you have the Briscoe Western Art Museum. Now, this art museum opened in 2013. What? Has this beautiful sculpture of a cattle drive here from the 1850s. And if you look at the back against the wall there, you have a man on a horse. And who could that be? It's the Duke. It's John Wayne. So there you go. Now, originally this building opened in 1930 and was San Antonio's first main public library from 30 to 68. And then from 68 to 2001, it became the Hertzberg Circus Museum. Actually had big brass elephants out here. So everyone watch this bridge, watch your heads. Luckily I practiced one time this morning. Here's my second shot. There you go. No one's getting hurt. Now this old bridge was actually built in 1890. It's made of cast iron. And they shipped it here all the way from Berlin, Texas. So we're a very romantic city, and here's one reason. On my right, you have Marriage Island. It's shaped like a heart. You have a point at this end and a bubbly part up there. You have a sculpture on the back of the island. That's Massenet's table. This was the exact location of Father Damien Massenet's Catholic Mass, right here. Now, ceremonies on this little island date back to the Mexican Revolution, and today there's over 300 weddings right there. Seen them all this weekend. They rent that island out right there by the half hour. So if you're getting hitched in Texas, you got 30 minutes. That's it. Which is really 15 minutes longer than it needs to be. Oops, did I say that out loud? Okay. All right, coming up on our right, this is the Westin Hotel. This was built in 1999. And the location is what's important. This is the location of the very first grist mill here in San Antonio. It was called the Nat Lewis Grist Mill. Now, Nat Lewis was a very prosperous and popular businessman in San Antonio in the 1800s. He opened this grist mill, and when Santa Anna invaded San Antonio, he actually took all of the supplies out of this grist mill on the right, took it over to the Alamo, and he was the last civilian to leave the Alamo before the siege began. He fled to San Jacinto, where he met up with Sam Houston, fought in the Battle of San Jacinto. We defeat Santa Anna, we claim our independence from Mexico, and then boom, he moves back to San Antonio and opens up a hat shop here in town. Now, if you look up to your left, you'll see this Tower Life building very high up here. Now, this building opened in June of 1929. It's 400 feet tall. And if you look very high up there, you see the spikes sticking out of the top. You notice those spikes have ears and teeth on them? Those are gargoyles way up there. And if you look below the second floor windows here, you see these heads, or these masks on the wall here. Those are called grotesques. And so we go to find out that the Smith Brothers and Young, the ones that actually built the building, were very superstitious back in the 20s. And in fact, the centerpiece of that building is an 8-sided neo-Gothic octagon, because that shape is supposed to ward off evil spirits, and what they thought it would do would be warding off bad business. But they opened it in 1929. So in October, we have a stock market crash. We slowly slip into the Great Depression. And then that $3 million building back there is sold 4 years down the road for about $300,000, a little over $300,000. Now, if you look at the building right now, you'll notice that it's shaped like a boat or a ship. And that's the purpose of it, since it's on the water here. Now, we call it the ghost ship on the river. Now, the reason why is because we have a lot of haunted buildings in San Antonio. If you didn't know it, the Menger Hotel is actually the most haunted hotel in America. You have the Emily Morgan Hotel, you have the Mercado, you have the Alamo, you have all these places that are really haunted. Tower Life's no different. Now, the legend is that on a clear day like today, as you pass through this floodgate up here, that you'll hear the winds cross and you'll hear a humming in your ears, and that's supposed to be the ghost ship talking to you. So be very quiet. Tell me when you hear it. It's kind of a cool sound. You gotta be real quiet. Victoria. There, did you hear it? Oh, come on, that was funny. All right. So here we go. Straight ahead is the old Bexar County Courthouse, built in 1896. This old courthouse is the oldest still functioning courthouse in Texas today, with its green tile roof and iconic beehive dome up there. Now, if you notice, this part of the river looks much different out here. This is actually the flood channel. So the natural flow of the river runs from way up north, about 5 miles, all the way down, makes this horseshoe effect, and then down south. If you look behind me, you'll see the river drops off back there. If you follow the river 8 miles down that way, you'll run into the other 4 Spanish missions along the way. Now, up here on the left is another reason why we're a very romantic city. We have our love locks. So we have a small chapel up here, and people get married, and of course they buy a lock, they put it on the fence, they throw the keys in the water, and they lock their love forever, never to be broken. Except look at all those locks over there, about half of them are combination locks. I call them my prenuptial locks. So coming up on the right, you're going to see the old Alamo National Bank building. Drury bought this property and renovated this into the Drury Plaza Hotel in 2007. Kept all the 1929 beautiful stained glass windows and things inside here. And if you look to your left through these trees, you can see the San Fernando Cathedral that was built in 1733 on the back of Main Plaza, right here through these trees. See back through here? Still holds mass every Sunday in there. Now, if we were to head straight up the river this way in 2.5 miles, we would run into the only set of locks in Texas. It would actually raise the boat up 9.5 feet, and then it would take you to a part of town now that's called the Pearl. Now, the Pearl is the old Pearl Brewery that's been renovated into a beautiful 5-star hotel called the Emma. Now, that whole area of town up there has kind of exploded with a lot of young professionals moving into the downtown areas of cities. San Antonio is no different. So you have a lot of brand new condominiums, apartments, restaurants. Culinary Institute of America is up that way. It's really, really pretty. So if you get a chance to go visit the Pearl, you should do it because it's a really pretty part of town. Now, this floodgate we're going under here is one of the reasons why we had to build this, because in 1921 we had a terrible flood in San Antonio. It was called the Great Flood. And the waters rose very, very high. So we had to build these floodgates on each end of the horseshoe. They shut down when the floodwaters come, and they bypass the interior of the river here. To give you an idea how deep the waters were, they crested 2 feet above these buildings on your right. Now, on my right over here, here's an offshoot of the flood. You see these tables set out for dinner? So right in that wall there, when the waters receded, there was a crack, and a fig seedling got caught in there. If you notice, this is still a live fig tree, but in 3 years, that fig tree will be 100 years old. Now, up on the right, we have the Esquire Tavern. It's really a fun little place. It's the longest wooden bar in Texas. That's one claim to fame. Second claim to fame is that it's the it's the second. It was the first bar in our country to open after they repealed Prohibition, because it opened up 1 minute after midnight. Now, it was a, quote, a barber shop during Prohibition, but they had a lot of nice haircuts in there. Now, if you want to get nostalgic, they have a restaurant in there as well. It's really good food. One sandwich they have up there that I love, fried bologna melt. It's a fried bologna sandwich. It's really good. Now, coming up on our right, this is another location for a river tour. This is actually our Aztec Theater location. If you look at that beautiful theater. Now, that theater opened in 1926, and it opened as a silent motion picture theater back in the day. In fact, Charlie Chaplin came to San Antonio on several occasions to do movies here, and 1 year after it opened, it showed its very first movie in there. It was called Don Juan, and it starred John Barrymore, who is Drew Barrymore's grandfather. He was an actor in the day. Now, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, that was kind of the hop and spot for San Antonio, and we renovated it in 2009, and now it's a beautiful live venue. So this bridge we're going under right now, this is a very sentimental bridge here for San Antonio. This is Salinas Bridge. So in 1997, Jennifer Lopez came to San Antonio and made the movie Selena. And if you go back and you look in the movie, you'll see this bridge. You'll see our boats going under it, and you'll see me and J-Lo up there sucking face. On my right, you have the Moncada Hotel, built in 2003. Now, what's important is this property along the riverbank here. This was the location of the 1901 L. Frank Saddle Company. Now, L. Frank, by 1918, became the largest saddle maker in the world. In fact, during World War I, we have 3 major Allied forces, which is U.S., Britain, and France. And all 3 of those armies, those soldiers, sat on a piece of San Antonio because they were all made right here along the river. Now, on my left is the La Mansión del Rio by Omni. This beautiful hotel was built in 1853, and it started out as a boys' school. So you have 4 Catholic brothers from the Society of Mary builds this as a boys' school. They incorporate girls into the program. By 1924, it becomes a college. By 34, they added a law school. And then in 66, 2 former students bought that property and renovated it into that beautiful hotel. Now get your cameras ready. You're going to point them up to your left, way up high at this building on your left. It's very close. It's an optical illusion. It looks like a wall with windows on it. So that's the Nix Hospital. Now, the Nix Hospital was built in 1930 and was pretty much state-of-the-art for its day. 2 innovations that it had inside there were on my left. These staggered windows going from left to right, that's a 1930s parking garage. And then another innovation it had inside there that people thought was pretty spiffy in San Antonio was called conditioned air. So our first air-conditioned hospital here in San Antonio, 1930. And I don't know, for some reason I always thought that air conditioning wasn't around until like the 50s or something, but apparently they had it in the 30s. Now, some notables that were born in that hospital back there, Carol Burnett's from San Antonio. She was born at the Knicks. And Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North was born there, and my Uncle Ricky was born there. All right, so straight ahead, you have the beautiful Hyatt Regency Hotel. And this hotel opened its doors in 1981. Had kind of a rough beginning because it was originally supposed to be a much taller hotel. But an ordinance in San Antonio states that you cannot build a building if it casts a shadow on the Alamo. So they had to cut it down by 8 stories in order for it to meet that specifications. But they do provide a beautiful walkway to the Alamo. So if you're going there today and you're on the river here, don't get up on the street and dodge cars. Just walk right through this hotel. That's what it's made for. All the way through the other side. It takes you through this walkway of waterfalls and water features and takes you right up to Alamo Plaza. It's really pretty. It takes you right to the Alamo. Now in 1984, 34 years ago, there was a very significant event took place in that very hotel. Any of y'all remember what happened in San Antonio, 1984? Oh, it was my wedding night up there. So on my right is the Casino Club building. This was built by German immigrants back in 1927. It was never really a casino like we know casinos. It was actually more of a social club. They would gather around there, have parties, drink beer, do all that fun stuff. The upper parts were actually renovated into business offices, but in '79 they renovated those into apartments. So you actually have apartment living right here on the river here in San Antonio. Got a lot of cool spots down here, guys. Anyone been here eating on the river yet? Y'all eating down here? What restaurant did you eat at? Do you remember? Saltgrass back there? Oh yeah, good steaks, good food. So we've got it all down here. I mean, look, this is all restaurant row. You got Mexican, you got American, you got Mexican, you got Italian, you got Mexican, you got it all. I tell you, I moved to San Antonio in 1973, and that's when my addiction began to the greatest food on the planet, which is actually Mexican food. So here, you're going to laugh if you're from the north, but we had kind of a rough winter this year. We had 10 days below 32 degrees. It's kind of tough. But people still came down to the river. They'd wrap themselves in a blanket, pull up a heater, and order a big frozen margarita. Now, coming up on the right here, you see this bronze bust by the Sayers? This is Robert Hugman. Now, Robert Hugman's considered the father of the Riverwalk. This was his grand idea and conceptualization back in 1929. But unfortunately, no one had any money in 29, so it wasn't until FDR comes into office with his WPA project. We were able to get funds put together, and by 39 we began construction, and in 41 we pretty much completed the entire downtown area. Now to my right, this is the oldest restaurant on the river. This is Casa Rio. It's really a great restaurant. Built on an old Spanish estate built in 1777. You can see it kind of looks like an old hacienda or ranch house. Now this was the first restaurant to offer riverside dining like this, and the first restaurant to offer river barge dining. So you can actually rent one of these barges, put a table on here, and a couple waiters jump on board. They give you a 5-course meal as you travel in the river, day or night. Or my favorite is the cocktail barge. A full bar with a bartender on board, 2 hours of that, and you go home and go to sleep really fast. All right, so we just took a left turn, 90 degree even, on a natural river. How in the world is that possible? Well, it's not. This is the man-made part of the river. We built all this in 1968. We had to connect the natural river behind me up to the Tower of the Americas, which is where the Hemisphere World Fair would take place at that time. Now this is the only part of the river that actually has a concrete bottom to it. Everything else is natural river rock and mud. So the 3 most popular questions I get from people visiting San Antonio riding on the river. Number 1, is this a real river? Yes, it is. The floodwaters are the San Pedro Springs, up by Incarnate Word University, flows down eventually into the Guadalupe River and then to the Gulf of Mexico. Number 2, how deep is the San Antonio River? Well, in the downtown area horseshoe, it's really only about 3 feet deep. So I do have 40 life vests on board, so don't worry. But if you fall out for whatever reason, just follow my 4 basic steps here. Number 1, stop screaming. Number 2, stand up. Number 3, walk to the side. And number 4, hang your head in shame because you fell out of a boat. And then number 3, how many people actually fall into the San Antonio River? It's not a daily occurrence, but it does happen a lot. Usually at night with alcohol being involved. It's now being close second is daylight and selfie sticks. So coming up on the right, you're going to get a great shot of the Tower of the Americas. If you look over the top of this building or this wall, built in 1968. It stands 750 feet tall, has an observation deck up on top, and has a restaurant up there, a very good one, a seafood restaurant called the Chart House, really delicious. And the restaurant revolves every hour on the hour. It moves on you. And so if you're sitting up next to the window, in 1 hour you get a perfect 360 panoramic of the entire San Antonio area. And what a day to go up there. Look at this. You can see probably for 30 miles from up there. It's really pretty. Now we have 3 beautiful hotels right straight ahead of us. The one on the far right, that's the Grand Hyatt, built in 2002. The one in the center is the Marriott River Walk, that was built in 79. And the one on the left where you boarded the boat is the Marriott River Center. That was built in 88 along with the River Center Mall. And that's the one we kind of want to talk about because Marriott buys that property over there. And on that property, there was already an old San Antonio hotel called the Fairmont. Now, the Fairmont was built in 1906 and was on the National Registry of Historic Buildings. So Marriott buys, or actually hires this company, comes to San Antonio, picks up a 3-story, 15,000 square foot, 3.2 million pound brick and rock hotel, puts it on 79 sets of 10 air-filled rubber tires, drives it right down Bowie Street here, takes it right across this Market Street Bridge, right above you. It hangs out 10 foot on either side, all the way down to South Alamo and Nueva, and they plant it there. It's open for business today. You can go see it. Made it into the Guinness Book of World Records because it took 6 days to move it. It pedaled along at 0.04 miles an hour. Isn't that incredible? And when you were living here in San Antonio, it was all the rage. Every morning was talking about the movement of the hotel because it was national news in San Antonio. Now this is the convention center, and you guys that are visiting here with a convention, you know it very well by now. This is dedicated to Henry B. Gonzalez. Now Henry B. Gonzalez was the very first Mexican-American voted into the U.S. House of Representatives back in the early 60s. He served multiple continuous terms all the way up until 1999 when he retired. So if you have people you know from San Antonio and you say the word Henry B. and they don't know who you're talking about, they really don't know San Antonio because he's pretty much an icon here. Now, as you know, tourism is our #1 industry here. Every year we have about 34.5 million people coming through our doors for one reason or another. This year would be a little more because we had the Final Four. And in that 1 week period here at the Final Four, they estimated anywhere between 250 and 300,000 people came here for that. Isn't that crazy? That's a lot of fun. Now we're going to go into this little lagoon area up here. We're going to do a little turnaround. It won't take long. Feels good in the sun though. It's the reef.
Ceramic tiles, we had that color. Because we couldn't find that color. So we got them at Lowe's.
Always got to watch for these baby ducks. Now the big ducks, they get out of the way. But the baby ducks, you always got to stop for them. So we're just going to do a little turnaround here. Now when we come out here, we're going to look at what I think is the most impressive piece on the entire tour. And it's going to be up here to your right above the Lila Casa Theater sign. It's this mosaic up here. Now this mosaic is 130 feet long. It's 22 feet tall. The artist's name is Juan O'Gorman. He's from Mexico City, and that's where it was built. It took him 2.5 years to make this piece. It's called The Confluence of Civilizations in America. And here's the kicker on it. Now, most mosaics are painted tiles, but these are not painted tiles. In fact, there's not one drop of paint up there. Those are 400,000 natural colored stones from Mexico. The artist hand chipped them, every single one of them, put them on 592 little panels, brought them here to Mexico City and placed them on the wall. If you look to the left, you have ancient Mayan, Aztec. If you look to the right, you have Roman and European histories. And of course, the center is the future. You have this family of the future, one little boy standing on the Alamo. And if you look real close, apparently the future clothing is optional, but it's right there. But there you go. Isn't that an incredible piece? I don't think it gets enough attention. No one really talks about it much, and it's just the fact that those are all natural stones. Now this Market Street Bridge that we just went under here, this was interesting. If you go on YouTube and you see the video of them moving the hotel across, this bridge was really the decision maker about whether it was going to happen or not. Because it's concrete. If it was steel or iron, it would actually give a little bit, but being concrete, it can break, it can crack, it can crush, it can crumble, a lot of things can happen. So they really reinforced it all the way across the bottom here. And at the last minute, in 1985, an engineer used a state-of-the-art piece of technology to ensure that the bridge wasn't going to move. He goes over to a trash can, and you can see this on the video. He rummages around in the trash can. He finds an empty beer bottle. And he takes that beer bottle and he wedges it in that gap right up there between the wall and the bridge. And he stands on a ladder with his walkie-talkie, and as they're bringing the hotel across, he's watching this bottle because he couldn't see the bridge move, but if the bottle cracked or broke or something happened, it was moving, it was eventually going to crumble, and the whole thing was going to be a disaster. But he was the hero in 1985 because he went through an old trash can. Luckily, there was a beer bottle in there, I guess. So we're coming back to the end of our tour, guys. So thank you so very much for joining us here in San Antonio and taking a river cruise with Go Rio. I really enjoy doing this. It really is a lot of fun. It's like a new class every day. If you do enjoy the job that I did, the boat captains do accept tips and gratuities, and they're very much appreciated. But other than that, please remain seated, and we will stop the boat, and then I'll rope it down, and then stand up at that point in time. If you're looking for restaurants, okay, if it's lunchtime and you're going straight down the river here, okay, and when the river comes to a T, you take a right, and there they all are, all in a row down there. You cannot go wrong with any of these restaurants. So thank you all so very much, and hang in there. I'll park the boat shortly.
Llegamos.